Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey there, Side Questers. My name's Sam Greszes. I'm a video games writer, and I'm here today to talk to you about Splatoon 3, the best third-person shooter ever made. Now, before you get your pitchforks out and tell me that I'm not a real gamer because I play a Nintendo baby game for babies at a competitive level, just bear with me for a second, or you can just turn up the podcast. You know, I won't be mad much. Think about your favorite shooter. Third person, first person, whatever. Think about your favorite team-based shooter. Think about the objectives, right? You're usually capturing a zone, you're pushing a payload, etc., etc. But every single objective revolves not just around getting kills and kind of, fragging your opponent, but the key thing to do is to stake out essentially zones that are safe, right? You want to move up as a team and create safe areas that you know your opponent cannot push into because you have it covered through your fire, right? That's essentially the key to any competitive shooter. You want to find your safe zones and expand your safe zones so that you can take the objective. What Splatoon does that is so brilliant is it gamifies this thing that is kind of unconscious as we play, right? When you play, you're not really thinking, unless you're at a choke point, you're not really thinking about locking down one specific area as you move up. You're thinking about taking out the opponents, taking out turrets, what have you, like shutting the opponents down. But as you do it, you are taking territory from them and putting that into your team's territory. Splatoon gamifies that in a very real way by the design of the game from the top down, right? When you shoot your guns in Splatoon, it doesn't just do damage to the opponent. You essentially mark your territory, as it were, by like inking the ground. And when you're in your own ink, you can swim faster, you're a little bit more hidden from view. It gives you all these options. There's a maneuver you can do that gives you invincibility frames, or a shield, rather. When you're in your opponent's ink, you're essentially a sitting duck. You take damage. It's really hard to move. And essentially, you got to like fight your way out of it or ink your feet and get away. It's not a place you want to be. Splatoon's way of kind of gamifying this unconscious thing that is common to every shooter and making it the center of the game by incentivizing literally taking the ground from your opponent, I think is brilliant. And it also has some shared DNA with games like Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch, where the weapon you pick, whether it's like a sniper rifle or a close range paintbrush or a paint roller or a bucket, they all have a different loadout with different kind of ways to help your team out. Some have grenades, some have bombs that slow enemies down, or like slow down regeneration of their ammo. Some have walls, so like you can build your own cover. And then you have your ultimate moves, and some of those are defensive, some of those are offensive. Some like create a giant thing of cover for you and your teammates. Some just shoot lasers through walls, and some like are big, huge offensive kind of like tank weapons that allow the entire team to push up behind you because they know that you are like, the opponents are going to focus their fire on that one target. It has all of this DNA from games like Overwatch, hero-based shooters, role shooters, without ever really saying it, right? Every weapon has different stats. If you equip a weapon, your run speed, your swim speed, all of that changes. And I just think that's brilliant. And I haven't even gotten into the best part about the game yet. From Splatoon 1 through Splatoon 3, the thing that originally drew me to the game was the way that the characters were designed, the way that the equipment was designed. It is all so steeped in real streetwear and fashion trends that it kind of blows my mind. There are shoes in the game, and you can look this up. They're called Squid Kids. And if you look up the design of the Squid Kid 4 and 5, you can see very specifically that they are modeled after not just Air Jordans, but specific Air Jordan models. You can do a side-by-side. They look very similar. Same thing with the Sesame Salt 270s. There are the Air Max 270s, Dusty Cactus. You can buy them in real life on StockX if you wanted to. I literally, in the mail right now, is a Bertle AC1141 jacket. It's an air-conditioned jacket that was popular in Japan a few years back. I think it came out in 2020, has been discontinued. And that is the direct inspiration for the Airflow and Hustle jacket in Splatoon 3. Also Splatoon 2, I think that's when it made its debut. The point is, the designers of the Splatoon franchise essentially are hype beasts. They know what people are wearing. They know like how people are liking to express themselves. They have in-universe brands that have identities. It's like, it's not just one note, right? It's not just like, oh, you pick your skin. It's no, you pick a shirt, you pick a hat, you pick other accessories, you pick shoes, and you can kind of express yourself in that way, the same way you would like put together an outfit. And all of your equipment has different abilities, and you can swap those out and kind of build your own build that you want. And I just think it's so impressive for a game like that to be so steeped in youth culture and street culture and like actual menswear and women's wear and like just like wear in general. It's wild. It's crazy. The biggest thing that kind of relates to is the general theming of the game. Each game kind of focuses on a different set of pop music idols. And this is where the game could have very easily failed and not become, I guess, the phenomenon that it is. It is, and it really is a phenomenon. It's like one of Nintendo's most successful new IPs, period. But to get back to the point of the idols, the fact that they're able to not just create these three, so far, separate idol groups that all have their own kind of like pop sensibilities. They have not only written songs for these groups, all the songs are bangers, first of all, but in addition to those idol groups, every single game has like 3, 4, 5 other bands that all have their own identities too. And like, you can look up the soundtrack. There's a song called Clickbait that I really love. The Calamari Incantation is like the game's series' theme song. It's been remixed a bunch of times for each game. It like always comes up in kind of a pivotal moment in the story mode, which I think is really sweet. But all this kind of comes together, the awareness of real like hype beast culture, what like people who are into fashion are into, what people who are into pop music are into. It comes together in this really kind of special form of world building that really doesn't happen in most games, like, period. Even story-based games. We don't really have many games that go deep into, okay, so like, what's the day-to-day like? Right? Yeah, we're living in this horrible post-apocalyptic wasteland. Sure. Art doesn't stop. Fashion doesn't stop. Music doesn't stop. And the fact that Splatoon kind of leans into that, number one, because they can, right? It's a story-light game. There is lore, and I enjoy the lore, but it is not as deep as, your 60-hour RPGs. The lore doesn't go that far. So you can do this kind of world building, but it really goes to show that can really make a difference in terms of getting people involved in your game and like having people want to inhabit this world. Why don't we see more fake bands in games? Why don't we see more fashion brands in games? Because that's the day-to-day, right? It's not always epic good versus evil, save the world stuff. Art doesn't stop. Culture doesn't stop. And narratively, that is what I think is most interesting to me about Splatoon 3. Splatoon 1 was kind of dipping its toe in the water. Splatoon 2 was a lot more confident. And Splatoon 3, it's already a phenomenon, so they could really kind of just go balls out with everything, right? All three idol groups are featured in Splatoon 3. You can go to all of the hub locations from Splatoon 1, 2, and 3. It's a real celebration, and we're kind of coming to the end of its lifespan now with the Grand Festival kind of around the corner in September. I want to see more games, not just in the team shooter department, but in general, take Splatoon's lead in making their lore not necessarily about what is like the plot of the game, but what normal people do. Normal people who aren't superheroes, right? Who aren't protagonists. What are they listening to? What are they wearing? How do they go about their day, right? It doesn't always need to be like this kind of storytelling where you find a note and it's like, I left my shop and I coughed some blood into a napkin and I'm leaving this note on my windowsill for some unknown reason. No, that's not realistic, right? I want to know what people are listening to. I want to know what people are wearing. I want to know how people live their lives in the exciting mundanity of day-to-day life, even in extraordinary circumstances, because that is what makes the extraordinary circumstances so much more extraordinary. Plus, the game's damn good too.
Happy gaming!
Are you tired of watching your beloved characters being tortured by careless authors?
Are you sick of feeling like they could have swapped out all of the painful action and the plot would remain untouched? Subscribe to Books That Burn, the fortnightly book review podcast focusing on fictional depictions of trauma.
We assume that the characters' reactions are reasonable and focus on how badly or well they were served by their authors.
Join us for our minor character spotlights, main character discussions, and favorite non-traumatic things in the dark books we love.
Find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.